Segment 10 Nikud Achat Nikud zayin. Gila neviacha et peshaenu lefanenu. Gila neviacha et peshaenu lefanenu. In this segment, we'll begin exploring the use of basic tools of Hebrew poetry in order to convey concepts with a level of refinement that would be greater than what we would be capable of were we to use only prose. Poetry characterizes roughly 1/3 of the material found in the Hebrew Bible. Consequently, it will be important for us to develop an awareness of the fundamental features of biblical Hebrew poetry. As we do so, we will increase our ability to probe what Fockelman terms the immense richness of meaning that can be latent within poetry. A fundamental feature characterizing Hebrew poetry is known as parallelism. Parallelism refers to the tendency to repeat and vary an idea within adjacent lines of poetic verse. Parallelism may be subdivided into 3 major sorts: synonymous parallelism, antithetical parallelism, and synthetic parallelism. There are other subcategories, but these are the major ones. We'll draw from lines in the current Jonah episode in order to illustrate these 3 different types of parallelism. In this Jonah episode, these lines belong to a prayer presented by the king of Nineveh. In example 1, we'll explore synonymous parallelism. The excerpt comes from cell 2, line Aleph, of Eser Nikud Achat Jonah episode. It's broken into 2 kola, as you see, kola Aleph and kola Beit. Both of these come from line Aleph. Gila neviacha et peshaenu lefanenu. Gila neviacha et peshaenu lefanenu. V'chol chatotenu chodia lanu. V'chol chatotenu chodia lanu. Pause the video for a moment and develop a translation for colon Aleph and colon Beit. Your translation should sound something like this. Your prophet revealed our transgressions before us, and all our sins he made known to us. Can you see elements of colon Beit which are synonymous to elements in colon Aleph? For example, in colon Aleph, we find the expression Gila, he revealed. And in colon Beit, we find the expression Hodia, he made known. He revealed, he made known. These are synonymous. Now it's your turn. What element in colon Beit would mirror the expression Peshaenu found in colon Aleph? And also in colon Aleph we find the word lefanenu. Is there any expression in colon Beit that would parallel lefanenu? Now let's turn our attention to example Shtayim. Here we encounter antithetical parallelism. This example comes from the same Jonah episode, but this time cell 1, line Hey. Berachta otanu bakol, uvederech shalom lo halachnu. Berachta otanu bakol, uvederech shalom lo halachnu. Pause the video long enough to develop a translation for these lines. Your translation should sound something like this. You have blessed us in everything, but in the way of peace we have not walked. Can you sense the way in which colon Beit expresses a concept which stands in contrast, that is antithetical, to colon Aleph? For one, the subject in colon Aleph is God, while the subject in colon Beit is the Ninevites. Further, the kind of behavior that is exhibited by the two operators, God and the Ninevites, stands in polar opposition. The Ninevites respond in an unruly fashion, while God has responded with great benevolence. This illustrates antithetical parallelism. Example 3 presents one more major category of parallelism, known as synthetic parallelism. This arises from cell 2, line Gimel of the same Jonah episode. Hine chatotenu lo nechaseh, ki mi yuchal lechaper avono. Hine chatotenu lo nechaseh, ki mi yuchal lechaper avono. Once again, pause the video long enough to develop a translation of these lines. Your translation will sound something like this. Behold, our sins we will not cover, for who can atone for his iniquity? In this example, we find that colon bait neither repeats nor contrasts the concept found in colon aleph. As a result, this bicolon is neither synonymous nor antithetical. It belongs to yet another category, the category known as synthetic parallelism. We find in colon bait, the king is explaining the decision of the Ninevites, his community, not to hide their offenses. That decision was established in colon aleph. Thus we see that the relationship between colon aleph and colon bait is that of a decision, colon aleph, and an explanation for that decision, colon bait. By supplying an explanation in support of colon aleph, we see then that colon bait extends the concept found back in colon aleph, and such an extension is termed synthetic parallelism. Please note that not all colon bait statements will comprise explanations per se, but they will, in one way or another, extend the thought that is begun in colon aleph. Finally, this point, which may rank as the single most insightful advice regarding appreciating Hebrew poetry. James Kugel urges us as readers not to prematurely discount synonymity as merely mundane rephrasing. Rather, each time we encounter a thought or a phrase similar to a thought or phrase we read shortly before, we should at that point slow down, consider the second expression very carefully in case we may determine that the poet has infused that second parallel member with some added dimension. At times it will be a greater measure of detail. Other times it will be a higher level of intensity, sometimes indicated by selecting a word, that is, the second synonymous word will be less common, a bit rarer than the original word. And when we see this sort of intensification, we can tap into a crescendo that swells from the first statement to the second parallel and consequently unlock a degree of vitality which otherwise would have remained hidden from us as readers.